Hello everyone, my name is Mike Bodie. I am going to be doing a talk today about working with voice actors. My name is Mike Bodie. I work as a voice actor. I trained as a classical actor at Lambda, which is the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, Marvel, or even so much as turned on the TV, you've probably seen an actor who trained here. I also work in film and theater and motion capture as well. Here's a handful of some things that I've done, and amongst many, many others. And then a bunch of stuff I can't talk about because I'm still under NDA about it. So if you ask me about that thing I'm doing, I'll tell you, shush. I can say nothing. I also work as a voice director, where I tell actors how to act better. No, I tell them what we want for the game, not how to do their job better. That's silly. I also work as a proofreader and a script editor as well. So, why do we have voice actors in games to begin with? For me, sound is the first sense. When you are a baby in the womb, you can't taste anything because, well, you have an umbilical cord. You can't see anything because, well, your eyes don't work and it's all dark. You can stretch your arms and legs, but you don't really know the context of what you're feeling. But if suddenly you hear lots of loud noises, even if you are an unborn fetus, it's still, and your ears are working, it's not going to be all that very nice. Nature puts two fears into us, heights and loud noises. Usually I scream suddenly and everybody jumps, and I go, see, loud noises, but I don't want to do that. Having vocal audio in a game immediately increases its perceived production value. And I know it's crazy, but it's true. There are people who pretend to be other people. They're known as actors. Dirty vermin. So why is it called Again, but Better, and why better, etc.? So the title came from a note that was given to me by a director when I was doing the guide track for a documentary which Harrison Ford was later going to record. The guide track is essentially to make sure that the video and the text and the timing of the words match up. And then they're going to get the famous person in to come and actually do their version of it. So in the end, Harrison Ford's going to do his version of the text and how he wants to do it. But I recorded the guide track for this documentary. And then the director goes, yeah, can we... I'm sure you know this, but can we go again? But, just do it better. Great. I will do it again, but better. Thank you. That's really specific and helpful. It's not. For me, a player's experience of a character is broken down between the visual aspects and the audio aspects. You can have wonderful environmental art and overall game design and animation and movement, but if all of that's in silence, it doesn't really work. If your character is crawling under a rock, you want to hear the Foley of all of that movement, of the legs and the clothes scraping against the rocks and the dirt. You want to hear the wind moving through the trees. And so I use the example, Razer, Corsair, SteelSeries, they don't make peripherals for taste or sound. They've got headsets and screens. It's not like you go, stick this in your mouth. It's got chroma on it, and it'll taste like the jungle. Yeah. So as an example, we all know who this is. If you don't, you've been living under a rock. As we can tell, from the visual information alone, he's got 2 swords on his back, scars on his face, covered in blood, got a crossbow, a meat hook, and lots of armor. From the visual aspects and the visual information alone, we expect that what we hear is going to sound like what we see. But if suddenly he sounds like Peter Griffin from Family Guy, all of the visual information doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a little bit weird to have what we see not match with the audio. It's incredibly immersion breaking. Yes, Keanu Reeves, you've been in the Matrix too long. So, getting voiceover for a game, there are 2 ways of doing it. You either hire an outsourcing company or you do it yourself. For me as a voice actor, both are perfectly wonderful. I work in both ways. I'm happy to work in either case. It's broken down to, if you are outsourcing, the outsourcer will handle a lot of the admin. They'll handle the casting. They'll handle the recording. They'll handle the dialogue to send it off to your team. And they'll do a lot of the legwork. Of course, you're having to pay for that. If you're doing it yourself, you will source the voiceovers and handle the casting. The voiceovers will generally provide the studios themselves, whether they have invested in their own equipment or they go and hire out their own equipment at their own cost. As these days, as a voice actor, it's expected that you own your own equipment if you want to be working remotely. And then your audio team will then handle the incoming audio and handle with the post-production, and you'll do all of the admin. Now, granted, that saves money, but you end up spending time doing that. So it's a balance. I'm largely going to be talking about things which are applicable to both situations, whether you do it yourself or whether you hire an outsourcing company. Some things will occur more often in one scenario versus the other, but they're still valid enough to mention because they do still occur. Here are an example of a few English language outsourcers that are in the UK. There are obviously a number of them all over Europe and all over the world, but these are the ones that I tend to work with. I put these up here because people go, hey, who do you work with? I'm like, well, them. So how do we find voice actors? Let's say that you've decided to do it yourself. How do you find the elusive cretins that are voice actors? You can start with recommendations. If you work in game dev, chances are you probably have friends who also work in game dev, and chances are they might have worked on a game that had voiceover in it. It's useful to say, hey, you worked on this game. I heard that you had voiceover in it. I really liked this person's performance. Can I get their name? I would say that this is a solid place to start from as far as finding voiceovers go, because you can generally trust the people you know best as opposed to starting out somewhere else. Another option is looking for voice agents. Now, granted, in each country, actors and voice actors and performers will have different infrastructure for how they are represented. So in the UK and the US, particularly in the US, for example, agencies are incredibly huge, massive corporate organizations. In the UK, they tend to be a bit smaller and not so large. And then obviously throughout Europe, it can be... I know, for example, in Germany, in some cases, studios act as a pseudo-agent. So a client will come to them, they'll say, we need an actor to do this, and this is the age range and the gender and the background of the person that we want to have on our project. Do you have anybody you can recommend? They go, yes, here are some people. Listen to their reels and see who you want. You can also contact your favorite VO. It's not crazy to go, I want Nolan North in my project. Granted, you'll be probably paying 6 or 7 figures to get them in. But if there is a voice actor in a game that you like and you want them to audition or work in your game, find out who they are. You can go on Twitter, you can go on IMDb, you can go on Instagram and find them and say, hey, I work at this game dev. I would like you to be in my game. They might go, great, speak to my agent. Or great, here's my email, contact me. Another place to look for voice actors are conferences and expos. I have been to all of them. I'll be going to... Hang on, I get to use the laser. Pew! I'll be going to Armenia in September and hopefully GDC next year. I may or may not be playing a lead in something. And the guy said, we're going to have a big pitch at GDC. He said, great, do you want me to come? It's up to you. I'll come. Probably the last place to look for voice actors is Twitter. If you want to stick your hand into a tank of piranhas, you can. No one's stopping you. But it is not uncommon to get maybe 300 within a day up to 1,000 by the end of the week responses to a casting. If you say, hey, I've got a voiceover casting I'd like you to submit here, there are voice actors on Twitter to spend their days just scouring where there's going to be a casting, so you're likely to get that. I'm going to skip because this is kind of gross after a while. So just going back on Twitter, you will be inundated with responses, and you'll have to sift through 300 or 1,000 plus responses to it, which can just take forever. Ew, gross. Okay. What generally happens with games is that voice actors are cast near the very end, and if you work in sound tends to get shoved in right at the end of a game. It is not always kind of considered first and foremost or as a larger part of it. Games where there have been actors cast early on tend to have performances which are much more detailed, which are much more grounded, which are much more relaxed, because the writers have had time to test out audio on the scripts on the actors to go, can you read this? Is this going to match your natural rhythms? They might say, hey, could you rephrase this because I say this more naturally this way? Great, sure, that sounds wonderful. What can happen is that actors can get dropped right in at the very end of the game, and then they have to scramble to give wonderful performances. The dev team has been working on the project for years. The actor comes in, they work on it for a couple hours, and then it's almost expected like, right, we've been working on this character for years. Great, we want you to have that years of experience in a couple of hours. Like, okay, I will need some information in order to do that. In the same way you wouldn't get your environmental artist in right at the end. It's like, okay, so we're just about to go to beta. We don't have an environmental artist. Let's find one. If the actors you pick, you find that in the development of the project, you need to find new actors because they no longer work and they no longer fit the setup, it's fine to recast them. I promise I won't get bitter about being recast. I mean, they won't be bitter about being recast. I worked on a project for 3 years as the lead, and then I was recast for tax reasons because the actor was in the country of where the game developer was, as opposed to me, who was somewhere else. So they went, well, you know, the characters change, but mostly tax reasons. You son of a bitch. There was a joke in here, but it didn't work earlier. So essentially, don't cast off of what somebody looks like. Now, for example, on the left here, we have Jackie Wells from Cyberpunk 2077. This is Jason Hightower. He is a generalist who works at an indie company in California. He's also represented by a very good and very high-end voice agent in LA. This is a very striking photo, almost borderline comedic. Sorry, Jason. Jason is a very lovely man, by the way. But this photo doesn't say to me this character. If you're casting voice actors based off of what somebody looks like, you're going to be looking for a really long time. People's voices and people's faces don't always match. And this will lead into something later, that when you are casting or auditioning voice actors, don't have the camera on. Every time that I've had the camera on and I've had to do an audition and I have to play big, strong, muscly man who's going to smash your skull in with their fist, I didn't get the part. But as soon as I put the camera off and I start talking, then they go, yes, I can really imagine how you crush their skull with your fist. Yes, I love that. But if you see sort of tall, soft, ginger, baby-faced me, it's not exactly inspiring to go, yes, rip his head off. It's, okay, I'll rip his head off. Here we go. I did it. It doesn't work. Jason does a wonderful, wonderful job, and if you hear him speak in his normal voice and then do his voice for Jackie Wells, it's night and day. He's got a really kind of soft-spoken voice, and then he gets down into this really deep kind of Latino thing, and it's really cool when he does it. It's just acting, right? You can have a film actor or a stage actor come and do voiceover, and it's the same. Yes and no. Within different performance mediums, the actual core skill of acting is the same, but where it differs is the medium that you work in. So voiceovers will not be great on stage because they're used to working from maybe about the collarbones up to maybe their eyebrows, and that's it. They don't really know how to use the rest of their body all that well, particularly if they're not on a microphone like this, and if they're in front of 400 or 500 people. They're not going to know how to physically embody their character from the head to their toe, because that's not a skill set that they've practiced. Can they learn it? Yes, but by default, it's not in them already. In the same way that if you take a film actor and you stick them on stage, they're used to doing really quiet, cinematic voices and things like this. They're not going to be able to project and fill that space without a microphone. And film actors might not be comfortable suddenly having to be in a booth and in a room, padded room, talking to yourself with a microphone and going, right, so you only have this to work with. And we've given you no information about the character, no pictures. We can't tell you what the game is because it's under NDA, and we can't give you the other character's lines. So we just have your lines. Okay, go. They're used to having a set and having the script. Come on in. Having a set and a script and costume and being on location, being in the hot sun and using that for their performance. It's not always the case. It's kind of like going, well, they're a doctor, why don't I do my heart surgery? It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't get your dentist to do heart surgery because they're a doctor. It's like, yes, they do have to have medical knowledge, but they're still different. I'm a doctor. I studied Renaissance literature. Can you do my teeth? No, I'm not a dentist. So just a real quick, as I mentioned, this is a comparison of film stage, mocap / performance capture, and voiceover as far as your time with the script, rehearsal time, the time between takes, how long it takes to do the job, and how much information you're getting. With a film, you're probably going to get the script over a month ahead of time. You might have a day or a couple of weeks to rehearse. Between takes, you might have a few minutes while people reset themselves. And as far as information goes, they can have as much information as you want or as much as your NDA will allow. With a stage play, time with the script, by this point, the script is probably already written, so you're going to have as much time with it knowing absolutely everything about the script. Rehearsal processes takes between 3 and 4 weeks, sometimes longer depending on the production company. Time between takes doesn't really matter because you just immediately go again, and it's theater. Rehearsal days are 9 to 8 hours. The show might be 2 to 3 hours. Again, as much information as they want. As far as mocap goes, the amount of time you have with a script is similar to film, but not always the case because they might be changing it right up to the last minute because you can do takes much faster in motion capture than you can in film. As soon as you hit your T-pose and you're done, you can go straight back into the next take. You don't have to wait for the extras to go back and reset. So, okay, go back there. No, go back. I can still see you. No further. Okay, great. Now stay there. No, put your phone away. We're in the 18th century. Great, thank you. All right. There's none of that. With voiceover, I will generally get the script the day before or on the day. I will sometimes not be told what the project is. I worked on Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I went in to record for it. I had no idea what I was doing, what it was. And then I started reading the script that I saw when I got there, and I went, guys, is this Ghost Recon Breakpoint? And they went, I don't know if we're allowed to tell you. Can we just show you the trailer? And it says Ghost Recon Breakpoint in the trailer, and I'm like, yes, this is what we're doing. Okay, great. Rehearsal time, I'll probably have a few minutes to familiarize myself with the text. In between takes, I might have a few seconds, like, go over there. Great, I love that line. Do it again, but slower. Go over there. Wonderful. Okay, next line. And it can be as quick as that. So I don't really have a whole lot of time to, what did I have for breakfast? What's my character's motivation? There isn't always that case, that availability. Recording sessions are between 1 to 4 hours. How much information I get ahead of time? Almost none. I have to ask for it. Click. It is always a good idea to hire voice actors who have experience with games. If I say to an actor, okay, so this line is an allied NPC response to a player-driven character, they might go, sorry, I don't speak that language. When in reality, it might be that the player says, capture point Charlie, and the line is, on my way. They might go, what do you mean? Well, I'm saying on my way, but what am I on my way to? What's my real desire for this? No, it's an allied response to an NPC allied response to a player-driven character. It's as simple as that. But if I explain it that way, they might not know what that is. But voiceovers who either have worked on lots of games or that they have that they play games themselves is useful because they'll understand the game mechanics and how things operate in game itself. If I say, oh, this is just a cinematic, it's a quick time event, and they'll go, what? But somebody who knows what that is goes, oh, great, yeah, okay, I know what this is. So I need to be able to, so there's one point where I have to tap B because the character has to push the wall to move it, and they go, okay, so we need a 5-second loop of efforts for this one moment, and then we have to have a case where maybe the player stops pressing B and the wall starts to come back towards them, so we have to have a loop, and then it stops, and then we have to have an interlude where they go, where the wall comes back to them, and then to do another loop, okay, now it comes back. All right, and good. So clip, 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 done. Stick it in the W-wise. Some actors will go, I've worked on 20 games. Like, great. And they've never been published, and they're all on itch.io. Check the credits, because voiceover is one of those... It's one of those professions where it's very frictionless. You can buy a microphone on Amazon and throw a duvet over your head and call yourself a voice actor. Unfortunately, there are people who do that. I was one of them. It's okay to ask for multiple auditions for voice actors. I recently signed with an agent in LA, and I spend most of my time these days auditioning, just doing auditions, because I'm very fortunate that my agent in LA will send me lots of auditions. I had to do 3 auditions yesterday in my hotel room. I literally took my ironing board, turned it upside down, threw a duvet over it, stuck my head in there with my microphone, and then recorded. And then did lots of post-processing and such. It's okay to ask actors for multiple rounds of auditioning. If somebody goes, well, I'm not going to audition for your 4th round of this game, you should just pick me. You should just throw them out the door. because we're used to auditioning. It's what we do. It's okay to use if you're worried about the actor learning too much information about the game. It's okay to use scripts that are not going to make it in the game. Use a dummy script. Use a script from something else that's similar to what you want them to audition for. That's also okay. Talk to the actors ahead of time if they have any questions. If you're doing it over Skype or Zoom, it helps to get to know them because you don't really want to work with jerks. Like if you're going to be spending like 15 hours recording them, you don't want to work with someone who's an asshole. It happens. As I said, no cameras during VO castings. It's okay to have the camera at the beginning going, "Hi guys, how you doing? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe." I'm sorry, I'm not on YouTube. And then go, "Great, okay, now I'm going to perform." Cut the camera so you're not distracted by what you see, and you can just listen to what they're doing. If some of the material you're going to record contains any sensitive information, political, sexual, violent, or whatever, just let them know ahead of time. Ask them if they're okay with it, or ask them, do you need to go prepare for something, etc. It's also good to do that ahead of time when you cast them. Say, right, we want to cast you on this project, but by the way, we've got some parts which might be a little bit sensitive or might be a bit difficult to handle or do. Are you okay with them? Are you okay with taking on this role knowing that those things are included? It's just courtesy. What you don't want to do is do 5 hours of recording and then go, "Great, here's a horrific scene of violence. We need you to scream as if you're being stabbed in the neck horribly." And they might go, "No, I'm not comfortable with that." In which case, well, you've already got 5 hours of recording and you paid for it. What do you do if they're not going to do this next bit? This is always a point of contention. If you need an actor from a specific background, get them. They are available. There are plenty of talented voice actors from backgrounds all around the world. You just have to find them. What can be difficult is if you're from a country where the heritage is predominantly Caucasian, if you will, finding actors from a varied global background can be difficult. A couple of websites, MENAarts.uk, that stands for Middle East North Africa Arts.co.uk. You can find a lot of actors from the Middle East and North Africa. The PGM VO list is Persons of Global Majority VO list. The laser. The PGM voice list is used quite often, particularly in the U.S. By a lot of casting houses because it's just really easy to access. If they're looking for somebody who might not be Caucasian or they want someone from a very specific background, they want Scottish Puerto Rican. I know a guy called Bruce who's Scottish Puerto Rican. You can find them there. If your character has a specific accent and you've hired an actor who is not from that country where that accent occurs, make sure it's accurate. Find somebody who can do that accent and check it with them. I worked on a game once where I had to play a Polish character. My accent was Polish. But in one scene, my character is saying to somebody, like, "Where are the cavalry?" And then this other guy goes, "My lord, the cavalry are by the gates. We'll go get them." It's like, why is there an American car salesman in 13th century Warsaw? Like, this makes no sense. And again, it's Neo in the Matrix. It's immersion breaking. And suddenly you're not in 13th century Poland, even if my accent was shitty. Suddenly you go, why is there this American in full chainmail armor going, "My lord, the cavalry's by the gates," with 50% off? It doesn't really work. So somebody can say, "Oh, I can do this accent." It's like, great. Let's have somebody who can do that accent check that it's right. It happens. It's generally easier just to hire somebody who can do that accent because then you don't have to deal with that problem. And then you know that they will always be doing that. You also have to take into account how long can that non-native actor do that accent before they start making mistakes. Because eventually they will. Like even Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Doctor Strange, makes mistakes in his American accent. But he's Benedict Cumberbatch, so he can get away with it. Damn you, Cumberbatch. English is a silly language. English is one of those languages like German and Spanish and Portuguese where the accent will denote a nationality as opposed to, well, a nationality first opposed to a region. So if you have somebody who sounds Scottish, South African, New Zealand, and American, they are from those countries first and foremost. Then within those countries, you'll have your regional accents, so on and so forth. But unless you have a really What can happen is you'll go, all right, we'll get this English actor and this English actor and this English actor. Then you've got somebody who's from the South, the North, and from Scotland. And then you go, why are all three of these people here in this environment? How can you justify this? Or how does this really work narratively? Generally, if your game is set in space or is sci-fi, you can go, well, it's international. You can have whoever you want there. Mixing and matching accent doesn't always make sense to English language speakers in the same way that if you have somebody who speaks Austrian German, High German, and then Swiss German, it's like, hi, we're all brothers and sisters. It's like, right, but why does the youngest one sound Austrian, the oldest one sounds Swiss, and the middle one speaks High German and is too proud of it? You have to sort of justify that. Click. You've decided to hire a studio to deal with a voiceover. Great. The studio will probably have a standardized setup throughout their multiple studios. They might ask actors to come in which case the sonic quality of the voices that it will be sent to you will all be standardized. If you are hiring actors who have their own studios, and you're not sure, and they haven't said, oh, this is my gear list, have them record whispers, shouts, some talking, room noise, so that you can listen to it, and then you can go, okay, this studio is going to be a problem, but the actor's really good. We need to have them go somewhere else and take care of it. Having lots of different actors on lots of different microphones will change the landscape of the audio if you have lots of conversations and stuff going on. There are plugins that can normalize that, but obviously that requires the knowledge of a good audio engineer. So do home studio tests as well. This is quite common. I do this regularly with a studio in LA. They go, if you sent us your tests before, send them again. Yeah, remember, that's the test when I sent it before. Do you not have it? It's fine. It's fine. I'll just send another one. Not all setups are the same. This is a professional setup, even though it's just a duvet with some foam in a closet versus a booth. Ironically, these are both mine, about 4 years apart. This was originally this is actually my third setup. I would stick my feet, I'm going to use a laser because I can. I could stick my feet in here, and then I would close the door behind me, and then I'd have my microphone here, and then I'd put everything on my iPad, and that's where I would record. I'd never have a camera on. I had no light in there. Well, I had this sort of crappy light thing here, but it didn't work. And it sounded good, but it looks crap. And if obviously I said, this is my recording space, somebody's going to go, yeah, we're going to pass. We're going to give a hard pass on this clusterfuck of a studio versus something that has been custom made and has all kinds of foam and whatnot and looks like a space prison. It feels like a prison, but it's fine. I make money in it. In the law of audio, you get what you pay for about 99% of the time. I'm going to run through very basic price structures for English language voiceover, because that is what I predominantly work in. I don't know what the price structures are for other languages. Your cost for a voice actor in English language is going to be broken down into two parts. You got the session fee, which is the cost for the actor to just do the work and show up. They can show up to the studio or be in their booth and say nothing for up to an hour, but you still got to pay for the time because they can't work for anybody else while you've hired them. It's a good idea to get them to do some acting if you're going to hire them instead of just being quiet in a room. And that can range between 200 to 250 pounds, euros, dollars, whichever currency you're working in or that your publisher is providing. Audio production companies will have set pay structures that you'll have to negotiate with, and they'll give you a quote on that. If your cast is remote, you might have to negotiate on price with them individually. If an actor says, no, I don't want that rate of pay, I'm too busy, or I have other things that will make me more money, don't be offended. That's just them. There's the second part is called a buyout. So in the UK, at least, thank you. Oh yeah, I'm over halfway. Good. In the UK, not so much in the US because they have unions and non-union stuff over there, which is a whole different kettle of fish. In the UK, you have buyouts, which essentially means you are not allowed to use a voice actor's voice in your game and then sell that game for profit without providing some form of remuneration to cover the usage of their voice in that game. In the same way, when you hear a song on the radio, every time that song is played, that musician gets some money for it. So if I give the world's greatest performance, hair flick, and then the game makes hundreds of millions of dollars because I gave a wonderful performance, and I don't receive any form of remuneration for that. That's a problem because the company is now in breach of copyright law. In the U.S., it's a little bit different. They might go, particularly for non-union work. If you're union in the States, they have a residual setup, and I won't get into that because it's incredibly complicated. But generally, in the U.K., they don't have union or non-union. It's just called work. But you'll get some non-union setups in the U.S. that they'll go, we need a 2-hour minimum to cover the lack of a buyout, which can be fixed by just putting it in a contract going, no, this is the buyout. We're being compliant with copyright law. Other things to consider for actors if you're hiring them, if you want them to record in your country or you're doing motion capture, performance capture, things to consider, will they need travel costs or be reimbursed, per diems, on-location accommodation? They might need work or travel visas. Will you be rehearsing anything? Will you be doing a table read? Obviously, that will cost time because that's time the actor can't use for other stuff. Taking into account facial capture, full performance capture, using their likeness if you're doing anything mocap-based. Why are they seemingly so high? Somebody said to me once, like, yeah, but the job only took 20 minutes, but we've hired you for an hour. Should we only pay you for 20 minutes? Says, no, it took 20 minutes because I'm good enough at my job that I can take an hour job and put it into 20 minutes. So you still owe me for the hour, but I'm competent enough that I can condense that down. This is why you hire a professional. I'm technically unemployed 90% of the year. I'm technically unemployed now. Anybody who's freelance will understand this, that you're not always employed, and there isn't always a check at the end of the month. I spend a lot of money I still go and do coaching and various specialized training, buying new equipment, fixing things, my own travel expenses, sending out emails, doing my own admin. Most of my work these days is sending out invoices and emails and maybe dusting my studio, and all that kind of stuff. And then once in a while, somebody says, hey, can you do some talking for us? I go, yes, I can do some talking for some money. But there's a whole other... I'm basically the CEO and the janitor. I ask for coffee, and then I go make it myself. If you don't give any information to the actors when you are recording them, they can't read your mind. If you want them to be able to understand a line because it has real narrative significance, you need to tell them what it's about. Just give them all the information they need. It's their job to take all of that, emotionally process it, and then perform it. It's also good to have the writer in the room if you are recording something, because the writer will have all the information about the project that you're doing. And they can answer lots of questions. If you can't say a lot or much about the game, get them to sign an NDA, because then you can tell them everything, and if they've reached that NDA, then you can come down on them like a mighty hammer for breaking their NDA. You can use references for other games, other TV things. It's quite common that I will get links to things on television or certain scenes when they go, yeah, we want our character to have this kind of quality to them when you're performing them. And that's always really useful for me. So I go, okay, so this is what they're going for. I can do my version of this scene that I've been sent. I have done some free things. This is generally how a script will show up to me when I'm recording it. If I'm at a outsourcing studio, they'll generally just show me the proofread, finalized text. If I am working with a developer, they might go, okay, this is our master script. For lots of different people, we're going to show you this, and it will have some of the context over here for what's going on for you to see. So things like this context, the description is useful. It might be that the client I'm working with, English is not their first language. Personally, I'm all right with going, hey, you need to change this or contract this word so that it sounds more fluent or has a more colloquial sound. And so we would change stuff as we go, so then they'll have a record of the change as they're going on with it. So they might already have this piece of text in the game, and then they go, actually, we changed it to this, and that's what we recorded. So that's what we're going to put in, because that sounds, according to the performer, more fluent, and I, as the audio engineer, like the way that sounds. There is a blank version of this. This is free on my website. This over here is generally, this is actually, consider this like a long page, but I had to cut it in half to fit it in the talk. This is generally what I'll be given when I'm doing a game audition. We have what the character is, their age, as in what their vocal print is, any voice description they might have, any voice references, how do they move, maybe they have a broken leg, so that when in the demo line when it says they sit down, they might go before they say the line because they have a broken leg. They don't just sort of plop down casually. The leg is broken. It hurts. And then basic information about them, any other kind of behavior, relationships to other characters. And then we'll have the line itself, what they're saying, and then it's a description of the scene. It might be the line is, "Oh no, where have you gone?" And the scene is, their loved one has just died. So then I go, okay, well, the loved one has died. They're probably sad, so I should say the line like, they're sad. "Oh no, where have you gone?" It's like, great, love that. The scene description in the context is useful because you don't always have to give the other line of the other actor. You can just give some basic context, and they'll go from there. These are all free at my website in the resources section. It takes you to Google Drive. I checked it. I think they're still there. I haven't deleted them. They are free. Have them. Have all of them. Pronunciation guides. You have made a wonderful MMORPG full of wonderful words that you've made up, and only you know how to pronounce them. Have a pronunciation guide. Even if maybe your game is set in a different country, what you don't want is to have some American butcher the language because they've never left their own country. Silly Americans. And what you don't want is to have two different actors be remote, record their lines, and they both say the same word in a different way, even though they should be saying it in the same way. It just looks as a bit of a lack of attention to detail. So have a master list of all the words which are either uncommon or might have multiple pronunciations, and standardize it so that when those actors come to those words and they say it wrong or they say it weirdly, you can go, no, this is how we want to say it, so it's standardized throughout. Sometimes the actors might have to do something really emotional or really physically taxing, like, hey, you have to die from being set on fire. Like, okay, great. They might need a minute to get back into it, or maybe they have to work themselves up emotionally to get all crying and teary. Just give them time. If you rush them, you're going to get a rushed line, and it's not going to sound good. Then you're going to go, oh, crap, this line is terrible. Oh, wait, we have to do it again. But then that means you have to bring them back in for another session and then pay for that full hour to get them to do it again, unless you're friends with them. And you go, hi, Mike, can you just do this line again because I didn't like it? It's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. Yep. Screaming and shouting for 4 hours is painful. If I remember working on Star Wars Battlefront 2, I had to do lots of dying. It's like, great, you die by poison gas. Okay, now you die by electrocution. Okay, there's an EMP grenade that's been thrown at your head explodes. So we want to have screaming, dying, and then as your head goes. Right, you're being set on fire, and you're wearing fireproof armor, so you die really slowly, but you're being set on fire. So we want to hear that for a while. It's gonna hurt. Like, there is no way to do a strenuous vocal session and walk out of it completely unscathed. It's going to hurt. It's just the way it is. Voice actors who are good at the job will be able to mitigate the damage and still give a wonderful performance, but that's down to the individual. Some people who are physically smaller or a bit more not quite as physically or vocally robust might suddenly go, oh no, I can't do this because it's too difficult for me. Have no more than a 4-hour block of recording work. If it's vocally strenuous, cut it down to 2, because what you don't want to do is do 4 hours of screaming and shouting, and then the next day come in doing, right, we're doing a really gentle monologues now. Lots of heartfelt emotion. And then the actor goes, okay, great, I'm going to do the heartfelt emotion with my screaming voice. Oh no, my son is dead. Like, hi, can you do that again, but really gentle? No, because this is what I sound like, because I was screaming yesterday. A damaged voice will get recorded. If your session has gentle monologues and dialogue and then screaming, do the screaming at the end. What you don't want to do is scream first and then do the other stuff that requires a lot of nuance and dexterity because you're going to record the damaged voice. Yay! We've finished the recording of the voices, either through an outsourcing company or that you've done it yourself. Keep in contact with the actors. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram and all that jazz. We don't mind. It's not like a corporate scenario where you can go, I can only follow the CEO on LinkedIn. That's socially appropriate. With actors and such, it's a little bit different. I don't mind being followed or Facebook friended. by anybody that I've worked with. It's useful for me to then go, hey, can I talk about this game that I worked on? They go, no, don't. Like, okay, I won't. Let them know when they can talk about it, or put out a post saying, hey, our game is now released. We worked with these wonderful actors. Tag, so that they know they can talk about it. I have never officially been told when I'm ever allowed to talk about a game. The standard thing for me is going, Wolfenstein 2 is out. I can probably talk about it because the world can now play it, and they'll hear me scream in German in it. I was trying to think of a German joke, but I couldn't. Germans aren't funny. I've never been officially told by anybody. Like, if I went to DICE EA and said, hi, I'm in this game, can I please talk about it? I'd probably have to go through a whole line of HR people to finally go, yes, unknown actor, you may speak about our game. And then I go, oh, hey guys, I'm in Battlefront 2. Go play it. Here's a Steam link and an EA link. Go download it. Okay, great, thanks. Bye. You can let them know. If you don't and the game comes out, I'm going to post about it anyway, because I'm going to presume that if the world can play it and hear me, then I can say that I'm in it. Send send your actors merch if you have it. Just, I don't know, some stickers or whatever. You don't have to send them the weird kind of Death Stranding fetus baby in the collector's edition. Like, hi, I've got this plastic fetus baby. Send them at least a Steam or a GOG code or Epic code or whatever, because then they can download it. They can go and capture their scenes using, I don't know, NVIDIA recording or whatever. They can put it on YouTube. They can put it on their social posts and go, hey guys, I'm in this thing. Suddenly that becomes additional digital real estate and exposure for your game, because the people who are following them might not have heard about your game. But now they have, because their favorite actor is now talking about it and that they're in it. There's no shadow. I was afraid that I was like doing this the whole time. Like, all the shadow? No, we're good. Great. Give the actors credit for the work. Check that how they want their name spelt. Legally, I am Michael Bodie, but on my stage name is Mike Bodie. Fingers. Because I just prefer that over my legal name. Ask how they want their name spelt correctly. I worked on a game. They spelt my last name incorrectly. It's now in the game, and I haven't sent them an email saying, hi, can we please patch this? So I've just changed it on IMDb. But in the game, it's got my last name as opposed to IE. It just says BODY. So I am now Mike Bodie. Mike Bodie, voice actor. Invite them to speak about your game. If you're at a conference somewhere saying, hey, we got one of the voice actors that play this character, talk about your experience working the game. I'm so glad you asked. Let me tell you. Nominate them for awards. It's good PR for yourself and for them and all that kind of stuff. Create an IMDb page for your game. It's easy. You go to IMDb, you create an account, you set one up. They will take anything, and I mean anything. Here's a list of award schemes for performance/voice acting. Memorize them. I'm glad you've memorized them. Good. If you want to know them, you can ask me afterwards. I'll let you know. Okay, so in conclusion, the takeaways are budget for your voiceover. Don't budget for your game and then go, oh, crap, we need to get voices in there. How much is it going to cost? Oh, wait, a lot. Make sure that you're compliant with copyright law and set aside money for both the sessions and the usage fee. Just for your knowledge, a buyout usage fee is a one-time payment. It's not every session. You pay it once. You now own all of the rights to that audio in that game for however you want. It's not like every session we have to pay a buyout. It's a one-time fee. Cast actors early, if you can. It allows you to trial your text with the actors to see if that works. Cast who you want, not who's convenient. Like, you might know some people down the road, but they're not the best actors, and they're not really suited. Take the time to find who you want, because it's worth doing that. Thank you. There's no such thing as too much communication. Let the actors know what's going on. Like this one game I got recast in, I wasn't told that I was recast in it until I saw Jeff Keighley doing his annual Xbox show. And they have this whole 15-minute section, and they got this beautiful cinematic scene, and the camera comes in, and I see my character, and it's going in, and then it comes around, and I go, oh, cool, they changed the character design. And then somebody else is speaking. I went, they recast me. And everyone who's watching this saw that. There's millions of people. And I found out that I was completely recast in this project while it was being shown for the one of the annual Xbox events. So it's, even if you have to recast them, or you just want to tell them what's going on, just send them a note saying, hey, we're still working on this. We're probably going to get you in near the end of the year to record stuff. Great, perfect, done. You don't have to do anything else. Give them an NDA if they can't talk about if they can't talk about things, or you want them to know things, but it's important for them to know, but you don't want them telling anyone, get them to sign an NDA. And be patient with the actors. Like, you've been working with your team for years. You probably even went to university together. And the actors suddenly show up at your front door with a bindle over their back, looking like a hobo. And then it's like, okay, yeah, vagabonds, we want you to do some acting. Just be patient that they are learning it as fast as they can in order to emotionally process it to then give you a performance that you like. So just be patient. I am Mike Bodie. I talk for a living, and I do a lot of talking. You are welcome to add me on those things. That is all.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, again, losing words to actually say lots of things, because that was some great presentation. Didn't expect it to be that amazing. Do we have any questions in the audience?
I like you had low standards of me when I came in. Like, I didn't expect it was going to be that good. It's like, well, thank you.
I mean...
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
I'm Ulyana, and it was really enjoyable to listen to you in each way. So, yeah. And I would like to ask you about the negative side of your work, because positive, we all stay positive, but people are usually keen on negative sides. So I have a couple of questions. Yeah. The first one, have you ever refused any projects except money? Yeah, except the money side. So you just got the offer, and you understand that it's not your cup of tea. You just can't do it.
Yes. In games, no, I've been very lucky with that. I know some people who have. I have refused work. It was for an extremist right-wing American group in Texas that wanted to petition the government to force the Chinese Communist Party to pay back bonds from the 1930s during like the First World War. And it was like, we want the Communist Party to pay back all of this money, and we want the government to make sure that they do it. And I looked at it and went, oh, the money's fine. I mean, this is a couple hours of work. But I looked at it and went, no, this is crazy. This is something out of like when they go, when they show an example of crazy people, it was this group. So I called my agent and said, hi, thank you for this opportunity, but I'm going to politely decline. And my agent went, that's fine, I understand. Yeah. So that was the only time.
Okay, and have you ever faced such a situation when you agreed to do some work and you finally you realize that, oh, that's a kind of bullshit during your job, so you understand that, oh, that's just I think I can't make it.
Sort of. I think the only one that's happened to me was they gave me, it was like a 30,000, I was playing the lead in a game, and it was like 30,000 words, and I thought, okay, between 1,800 and 1,400 words an hour, I can probably do about 1,000 an hour, so at least 30 hours of recording. It turned into 42 hours, so an extra 12 hours, and I had to do it within like 5 days because I was going away to LA. This was last year. Excuse me. And the problem was that when they printed, they were using Artisy Draft, which is an app to do branching narratives. But when Artisy prints the actual documents, it comes out like absolute chaos, and it suddenly is like 1,000 pages long, literally 1,000 pages long on a Word document, and I'll have like one line per page. So that was nonsense. So what they did instead was they screen shared on Microsoft Teams the actual app itself. So all I ever saw was a little square with the line in it, no context. I don't know where the character is. They might go, okay, the character's in the crypt. Okay, what does the crypt look like? Is it large? Is it small? Should I project? What's going on? They go, just say the line like you're sad. Like, okay. Oh no, I'm sad. Okay, no, do it, but do it like you're sad. Okay, oh, I'm sad. Okay, great, next line. So it became a really unpleasant experience because of how they had set up their text and how they were managed doing the admin on the dialogue. So initially I thought, great, I'm going to get a lovely Excel spreadsheet. And instead I got like a guy clicking and moving this square around Microsoft Teams. And I had to go, hi, sorry, can you zoom in to make the text bigger? But he was like scrolling on his mouse on this one thing. So that was probably the only time that I thought this should take 30 hours and end up being 42. But by that point, it's like, I know they didn't have the money to pay me for the extra 12 hours. So it's like, okay, this is my fault for not asking enough questions or asking them to format the script before they record it, because that would have saved the 12 hours. So I could only really charge them for 30 and not the other 12. And they're like, okay, well, thank you. This is our first game. It's like, okay, I'm in a lot of pain right now because it's very hot in here. But that was the only time that happened, if you will.
Okay, lucky you are. Thank you for your answers.
Yeah, short question from me. Name's Alex. It was
Hi.
really a nice lecture.
Thank you.
So the question is, do you charge extra for screaming, since it takes time to get your voice to the normal stages, and do you charge extra? So you take, let's say, I end up the recording in let's say 3 days, and then it takes 2 days to make my voice sound normal, and that 2 days I'm gonna take extra fee for that. Do you do that?
Do I charge? No, because it is expected of me. So it's expected that I know how to do that.
So you put it into initial price, right? Somehow.
Yeah. So I when I do a price calculation, I look at the words, because they might, if I have the client might want a select and 2 alternatives, and you've got a phrase that is help me, I'm dying. Help me, I'm dying. That's 4 words. But if I do that 3 times, that line becomes 12. So then it's not a case of paying for speaking 4 words, is that you're actually paying for speaking 12. So when I say 1,000 words, I take that and times that by 2 or 3 in the actual physical act of speaking, not just looking at it on a spreadsheet. As far as screaming and stuff goes, it depends on the person. Like, I can scream till the cows come home, but that's a skill that I have. Other people don't have that. So they might scream for a couple hours and then go, okay, my voice really hurts. Sometimes because of how things have worked out, you might have to do 4 hours of screaming, in which case every couple of minutes, every 15 minutes, take a 5-minute break. And then the actor should know what they're doing to reset their voice. And then you go again. So you have a start and stop way of going, so you maintain the physical integrity of the voice over a longer period in that way. I don't charge for screaming because it's expected of me. As far as arranging your times go, it's probably, if you've got 5 days in the week, your first day with one actor is lots of monologues and dialogues, and then you've got doing screaming for 2 hours on a Tuesday. Fill in that time with other actors so you can let your one actor recover. It's a bit like a cool down. You have to let the actor have a cool down timer before you can have to bring them back in to do screaming again or whatever it is. And depending on the actor, they might go, hi guys, sorry, I'm still really painful. Here's a sample of what I sound like. If you don't like that, let's wait till Friday to do that. And that's the way it is. So you're only paying for when you're using the actor, not paying for their recovery, because that's their responsibility.
Thanks. Once again, nice lecture.
You're welcome. If somebody charges you for screaming, question that, because that's weird. Sorry, I will follow up. If you are in the union in the U.S., they do have different pay rates for screaming, but that's for union actors. I won't get into union stuff. I think it's all bullshit. I think they baby their actors a little bit too much. It's like, shut up and do your job. Is my take on it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I got some great insights.
Thank you.
Have you ever worked with virtual reality projects, and have you spotted any differences working on that? And if yes?
Yes, I worked on a project for Third Floor Inc. that unfortunately got canceled. I played the lead in it. The problem with it was the script was written by TV writers, and it should have been written by theater writers. Because if my character is stood over there monologuing about something, I, the player, can be looking around and other things and then picking up a bottle and throwing it at the person, and there's nothing that they can do. Except they're still going to go through their preset animation, and they're going to go through all of their dialogue. And as far as myself goes, it was more theatrical than anything else. So I have to stand there and talk to the player for a while, and then maybe something happens, I turn around, so on and so forth. But the player, like if something happens up here and I look up there, the player sees that I've made a physical motion away, so they might go to where I'm giving my attention, or they might just be looking at the ground playing in the snow because it's VR and they can. There's nothing that forces them to do that unless you lock the camera and tell them where to look like you would in a cinematic. So that kind of stuff would fall into the realm of performance capture, in which case you get more, I call it, performance capture for me is cinematic voice, theatrical body. So I need to be able to inhabit the space, but I don't have to project because the player is right here. So maybe it's a bit more quiet and husky and cinematic, but I need to be able to move lots, as opposed to small kind of movements which might be appropriate for a framing in camera.
Yeah, thank you. And also there's this like immersive theater in which you are actually immersed by the actors, and there's virtual reality nicks and knacks. Do you see any correlations in between this practice and virtual reality maybe?
Yeah, I do. I think obviously with immersive theater you have to pay for all the actors, whereas with VR you can have your character models go through a preset animation in the corner and have them triggered to do stuff, so on and so forth. So it's cheaper in that way that you don't have to look after live humans. But as far as the correlation between the two, I think they're very similar, because obviously you are in the space itself. What you might run into is that if you're in a big warehouse, an immersive theater, you can walk to the other side of the warehouse. But if you're in VR, you might have to teleport to get to the other side of the warehouse to see what's over there, because obviously this space does not correlate to the digital space, if you will. So
Yeah,
I'd say they're
thank you.
similar.
Huge thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Do we have more questions here?
Your speech just made me think, so I'm sorry, I'll ask again.
Go ahead.
About crazy things you should do when you need to make a specific sound. For example, you need to do some exercises or run around your house to make some specific sound, or you need to put a lot of food in your mouth.
I'll just pretend.
Mouth, yes, and make some kind of this stuff, maybe some crazy stuff you needed to do to make specific sound.
I'll do it on the spot. So if I have to run, there we go, and I make my feet as quiet as possible, or I'll just go so that I'm imitating as much as possible. If I have to push, then obviously I'll tighten everything as opposed to picking something up. Some studios will have weights to mimic it, but you're actually just going to exhaust yourself. Here's like a 20-kilo weight. It's like, okay, next take. Okay, great. I'm getting stronger. It's getting easier. No, it needs to be difficult. Just make difficult noises. Done. So I tend to pretend or act as opposed to actually doing it. It depends on the scenario. If I'm doing theater, then yeah, I might run around before I suddenly come into the scene, and then I have to be out of breath. Oh no, your uncle has died. Ooh. That's where I would use that. But in a studio space, I'd probably just do it on the spot as quietly as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have time for some more questions if you want.
Hi.
Hi.
I know that voice actors shouldn't eat chocolate before working, yeah? And what is your timetable for food? And second, when you can work just 4 hours a day, and do you have the timetable just I work just in the morning, and in the evening before 10 p.m. I don't work because I don't?
With food, I generally give it a half hour, 45 minutes. If I think, depending what I eat, it can then obviously change the consistency of your saliva in the mouth, so it might suddenly sound a bit kind of gross. If I'm still like if I'm picking things out of my teeth, or I know I have a very small nasal plosion, so sometimes I'll go with my nose and I won't even know it, and I'll listen back to it and I go, I did that thing where I go with my nose. And so I'll have to do it again, and generally that's because my nose is full of snot, so I have to sniff and then do it again, but that's because I've had milk or chocolate or whatever. As far as timetable goes, I'll take breaks during a 4-hour session. I can't speak for 4 hours because the voice, it's the same way if you're doing exercise, you might take a break and then do another set. If you're doing like 100 reps of something, you're going to get a lot tired a lot faster. So it's useful to take breaks in that regard. As far as a timetable goes, if I have to eat, I'll always eat before something, and generally maybe 45, half hour to an hour before, because what I don't want happening is my stomach grumbling, going while it's recording, because the microphone will pick that up. And I had it once where I had to keep leaving my booth or it was a studio to go, hi, sorry, I need to go get some water and like eat a cookie, just so I could have something in my stomach so that the noise wouldn't echo in my organs and get picked up for the microphone. But sometimes, as far as working in the evenings, I might work at like 10 or 11 at night because the client's in LA and they're 8 hours behind me. So that's the time I have to work at. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Like, I mean, I don't even want to let you go because it's so like interesting to have a talk with you.